That bedtime affirmation allows you to set your intention and your mindset and your emotions before you go to bed. So your first thought in the morning is exactly what you programmed yourself for bed, which is it's morning, I'm excited, I'm awake, etc. So that's the first step is you've got to set your intentions and your commitment before you go to bed.
What if someone listening is like, there's no way, Hal, that I am getting up 1 hour earlier?
Yeah. I would say join the club. Um, I was asked about, well, let me say this. When I was writing The Miracle Morning, that was my biggest fear. I would, whenever I would have writer's block, I would almost throw in the towel. That's why it took me 3 years to write the book, because it was just, I struggled with a lot of self doubt and writer's block and all that. But I kept thinking to myself, how am I going to convince someone who's quote unquote not a morning person
or
to
or has 4 kids,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like, so how do you convince that mama who's
yeah.
got 4 kids, who's not a morning person, who is saying right now, Hal, there's no way.
So here's what I will say is that about a year ago I was asked in an interview how what per it was that question, but it was followed by what percentage of the Miracle Morning community were already morning people before they read the book. So this was just a shift of behavior. It was like, oh, okay, instead of checking email first thing, I'll do the savers, right? Or instead of watching the news, I'll do the savers. They said, what percentage were already morning people? So this was not a big overcoming of a limiting belief that they're not a morning person. They just had to shift their behavior. And they said, and what percentage of the Miracle Morning community were never in their life had ever been a morning person? So this was like a big, like, I don't know. And I did not know the answer. So we surveyed the Miracle Morning community. And I was really like, I really didn't know. I assumed that I was thinking like 50-50. I don't know. Maybe it was going to be 80% of people were already morning people. So I would just kind of caught the low hanging fruit with the book, you know? And I was kind of pleasantly surprised and blown away. 72%. And again, there's hundreds of thousands of people, in our Facebook group, but 72% said they had never in their entire life been a morning person until they read the book. And
Wow.
so when I say join the club, not just me, but it's the majority of people that do the Miracle Morning. And here's why I kind of tried to figure out why that is. Why were so many people have been able to overcome a lifetime of telling themselves, I'm not a morning person, or I've got 4 kids, I don't have time for this. And I'm going to answer that question kind of separately because it's a little bit different. Um, there's a chapter in the book called the 5-step snooze-proof wake-up strategy. And this is basically this is the linchpin that enables people to overcome that I like to snooze. Like I don't I have trouble waking up in the morning. And I'll share a few of the most important of these 5 steps. Number 1, you have to set your intention before bed. In other words, you have to make a commitment before bed. And in the book, there's actually something called the bedtime affirmation, which is my personal affirmation, word for word, that I have on my bedside table. I don't anymore, it's memorized, but that I had for many years on my bedside table that I would read before bed. And it said, I am committed to waking up tomorrow at blank time. And I am committed to waking up with energy and discipline and getting out of bed, and on and on and on. And so before bed, think about this. Your first thought in the morning is almost always the same thought you had before bed. You could also say that with emotion. The first feeling you have in the morning is whatever the feeling was you had before bed. Many people, maybe even most people, go to bed stressed about the next day, right? You go to bed stressed, you don't sleep that well, and your first thought in the morning is, oh God, it's morning. I have to do blank, 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 and blank today. I've got that client meeting. I'm in debt right now. My husband and I went to bed having a fight, right? And so that bedtime affirmation allows you to set your intention and your mindset and your emotions before you go to bed. So your first thought in the morning is exactly what you programmed yourself for bed, which is it's morning, I'm excited, I'm awake, etc. So that's the first step is you've got to set your intentions and your commitment before you go to bed. And maybe the most important step is you have to set your alarm clock as far away as you possibly can. For me, it's in the bathroom next to my sink. And when I wake up in the morning, because here's the reason. If you can reach the alarm clock while you're still half asleep, What do you do almost every time, Melissa? What do most people do? Yeah, without even, sometimes you don't even wake up for it. It's like a dream. Oh, I'm dreaming. What? And I snooze, right? When you have to get out of bed, walk across the room, it is 10 times, 100 times, infinitely easier to stay awake. And I remember I gave a speech in New York and a CEO said, before I went up on stage, he was introducing me and he said, Hal, I hope you share this tip. In case you don't, I'm going to. He said, the game changer for me was moving my alarm clock across the room.
And it's so simple.
So simple. But this is a CEO of this big company. And he's like, I never thought of that. It was a game changer. But when you combine that with the first step of setting your intention before bed and the commitment, well, now that you're awake and you're remembering I'm committed to stay awake and brush my teeth and wash my face and rehydrate with a full glass of water, those two things make you unstoppable. And it's so much easier to just move on with your day. And then once you do your first miracle morning, you are so energized, you're so inspired, you're so fired up that the second miracle morning, it's like you're like a kid on Christmas. When the alarm goes off, you already know what's coming. You go in, you turn it off, you brush you can't wait to get in the living room. And I'm speaking both from experience and from hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people that will tell you the exact same thing from their own experience. And then I'll answer your other question if you want to share something. I know I talk fast and a lot, but I can answer the question of what if you have 4 kids and you're like, I don't have time for this. So that's a question we get asked a lot in the Miracle Morning community in the Facebook group, right? I'm a mom. I've got 3 kids. I already wake up at 6 a.m. to get them ready. Like, I can't do it. And every the moms and the dads, they come in, the other parents will come in and people will get dozens and dozens of comments or hundreds of comments, and they will say, I thought the same thing. I gave it a try. I woke up an hour earlier, and you can wake up half an hour earlier to start, just ease into it. But they said you realize that it allows you to prime yourself to get in that peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state so that when your kids wake up, you're super mom. You're super dad, right? And what you realize is, oh my gosh, I need this more than the people that don't have kids, right? And you go, my family deserves this from me. And that's, for me, that's what I've realized is that when I started the Miracle Morning, I was, 29, I think, 29 years old. And I was in debt and I was doing it very selfishly, right? It was like, I need to make money. I need to be successful. I need to turn my life around. And what I've come to now is that the Miracle Morning, while it helped me do all of that and get everything that I wanted out of life, it's now, for me, it's the ultimate practice for me being the dad that my kids deserve and being the husband that my wife deserves and the leader that my community deserves and the the human that humanity deserves, right? And so for me, I still do the Miracle Morning. I've done it probably an average of 6 days a week for, what year is it? So 13 years, 12 years, 12 or 13 years, almost every day. And for me now, it's about giving to myself first so that I can give the best version of me to the people I love and the people that I lead.
Oh, I love it. What are the reasons why you wouldn't do it?
Great question. So the only time I don't do it is if I stay up late. And so that is date night with my wife, movie night with my kids, So I probably average 5 to 6 days a week, depending. I actually love doing it on the weekends. Oprah Winfrey has a great quote that sums up why. She said, and I'm doing my best to quote her. She said, I love waking up on Saturdays and getting to work, because it gives me a sense of time freedom that doesn't come with the pressure that the weekdays come with. So I love Miracle Morning on Saturday. I love it on Sunday. And people in the community, that's another popular question in the Facebook group. They go, do you do the Miracle Morning on weekends? And it's almost always the same answers. At first, I started with 5 days a week. And then I would take Saturday off and I would sleep in, but I'd wake up and I wouldn't feel as good as I felt when I did the Miracle Morning, right? I wasn't centered. I wasn't calm. I wasn't focused. I didn't have clarity, all these things. They go, so then I started doing it on the weekends and I went from 5 days a week to 6 days a week to 7 days a week, you know? But I always say, I always tell people do it more than you don't. So at least 4 days a week, right? But I do tell people in the beginning, the Miracle Morning book concludes with a 30-day challenge. And I talk about the importance of doing something for 30 days in a row. And if you miss a few days, that's fine. But if you do something every day, the more often you do something, the easier it is to keep doing it. And so I have a chapter that leads up to the final chapter in the book that explains like the psychology of why we fail to make changes and for those changes to stick, and then what we need, how we need to approach things both psychologically and logistically for a change, a behavior, a habit to stick forever. And so that leads into this Miracle Morning 30-day challenge. So I always tell people, I encourage you to try to do it 30 days in a row. And if you miss 5 of those days or whatever, 6 or 7 or 8, whatever, do the best that you can. And it'll get easier and easier and easier and just become part of your life. And people will tell you in the community, like when they don't do the Miracle Morning, they just feel off. They just feel like they missed. It's like people that love going to the gym, and when they miss the gym, they just feel like, man, I missed that practice that nurtures my soul.